Latin 1, here we are with the pluperfect tense. Okay, so it's a brand new tense for you. If you're following along, you will notice that the present and the imperfect and the future were all on the same column. And then over on the next column, there was the perfect, right? Underneath that is going to be the pluperfect. Okay, so it's the very next one we're going to learn. And the pluperfect tense, the best way to explain it is it's the past before the past. It's anything that happened in the past, the pluperfect happened before it, okay? So I will give you some examples so that you can see it. The formation of it is really easy, deceptively so, but it does require you to remember something about sum esse. So let's get it started, shall we? There we go. So, the pluperfect, and you can find the pluperfect constructions, by the way, on page 213. So it's in chapter 24, which I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself on, but that's okay. So the pluperfect tense translates as had loved. Not have, had loved, okay? And it gets its stem from the perfect, which is the third principal part. So amo, amare, amawi, amatum. So amau is your stem. And if you look at how we did the cards and you look at how I've organized it for you, of course it gets its stem from that because those are the only stems that you have on that side. It uses the imperfect of sum esse for its ending, okay? And I will get into that in a second. And like I said, it's the past before the past, and it usually occurs in a sentence or a paragraph that already has other past tenses, but it can occur on its own. You just have to recognize when to use it, okay? So you have seen the pluperfect in English, but very often it's used with other tenses. Now, in order to understand that, I want to make sure that we see sum esse again, because sum esse is a really important verb, and you need to remember it. So sum esse, right, in the present tense is sum esse, sumus esti sunt. In the imperfect, more important here, eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratis, erant. You just had to memorize. That's how it was. And then the future was ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritis, erunt, which I taught you in the last lesson. I gave you all of the futures in the future tense for all of the irregular verbs. Now, you've done the perfect as well, and that's fui, fuisti, fuit, fuimus, fuistis, fuerunt. And remember, the construction of that one was different. So over here, they were their own beast, right? But over here, and actually there's a really cool reason why these end up doing the ER thing, but that's a 15-minute discussion in person next year if you want after school. But fui, fuisti, fuit, fuimus, fuistis, fuerunt, if you notice, it gets its stem from that third principal part. So that's why you have to learn all four principal parts of your verbs. So step one, take your third principal part. Step two, knock off the ending, that I. And then your stem is fu, right, all the way down. So fu, 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 fu. It's like I'm in Knives Out. That same construction is what we're going to use for the pluperfect. But what I want to point out is, look at what is right across from the pluperfect. It's the imperfect. So you take the imperfect of esse and you tack that on to the ending of every single pluperfect verb. No exceptions at all. It's completely regular now. Okay? In fact, the perfects is where it's all very regular. So fueram, fueras, fuerat, fueramus, fueratis, fuerant. I had been, you had been, he, she, it had been, we had been, y'all had been, they had been. And that's how that works. Now, I'm going to get into the construction of it, but I just want you to notice the imperfect of esse is right next to where you're going to use it in the pluperfect tense. Okay, so I've kept the pattern going the same way each time. Now, how to conjugate it, and I apologize if anything's smeared. How to conjugate the pluperfect tense. Step one, take the third principal part. Step two, knock off the I. Step three, add on your personal endings, which are the imperfects of sum esse. Step four, floss. Okay? So, step one, third principal part, as you can see, it's amawi, and it comes down here. Step two, knock off the I. So now you've got your stems. Amau, 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 amau. And you just do that 6 times. And then step three, add on your personal endings, which in this case is eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratis, erant. So amaweram, amaweras, amawerat, amaweramus, amaweratis, amawerant. That's the pluperfect. So I had loved, you had loved, he, she, it had loved, we had loved, y'all had loved, they had loved. That's how it works. So again, come back to this video anytime you need to go over that. But then I gave you a couple examples. Like I said, it's the past before the past. So here's how you translate it. So quamquam pueri ab urbe disceserant domum numquam, no, non dum, sorry, it's all backwards for me, advenerunt, right? So although the boys had departed, notice had departed, from the city, they did not yet, does that say reach or arrive to? They did not yet return, sorry, homeward. So if you look at what's happening chronologically in this sentence, them having left from the city, having departed, is the first thing. Although they had not, they did not yet do this. So did not yet do this is happening chronologically second in what's going on. The perfect is happening closer to the present than the pluperfect was. Okay, so this is the past before this past. Another example would be olim. Okay, olim servus in Africa habitabat cum leone, sed antea in Syria habitaverat. So once a slave was living in Africa with a lion, but before he had lived in Syria. So which thing happens first, him living with the lion or him living in Syria? Since we put him living in Syria in the pluperfect, that happened first. It is the past before the past. So even if I used imperfect or perfect, it doesn't matter. The pluperfect is what's going to happen before that. So it's whatever happened before it. So I hope that helps clarify it for you. Go over this video a few times. Make sure that it makes sense to you. And then for practice, what I want you to do is take a look at exercise 24B and 24C. Both of those are really good exercises about getting the pluperfect into your head. I don't want you to do 24D or E yet because there's another tense in there and I don't want to confuse you yet, okay? I'm already pushing you further ahead of the story so that you get these tenses so that when we do translate, it will make sense. So again, for extra practice, and you do need it, 24B and C. And go ahead and again, send them to me and I'll give you all the feedback that you could need. But remember to translate it as had done whatever it is. All right, I'm going to hit the button now.